In today's session, we're going to take a look at a unique feature available in solidThinking Evolve. And this feature allows you to create 3D geometry directly from a 2D image. There's a lot of ways to create textures visually on your models. For example, if I have this surface and I want to make it look like it's a diamond plate material, I can just select the surface and I can click on this diamond plate floor material and I can render it, and for sure it's got the texture for a diamond plate type of material. But if you're really trying to move a model beyond this, and let's say you want to get a physical prototype or an STL model, this really doesn't do much for you. It's because it's not actually creating the geometry, it's just creating a visual image on top of a flat surface in this case. So what's unique about the pixel mapping tool is it will actually create the physical 3D model and deform the surfaces to take on whatever texture or shape that your 2D image has. So let's take a look at how this works. So in Photoshop, and let me just open up Photoshop so you can see a few of the files that I've created. So these are super easy, super simple. And it's really just to illustrate how this tool works with images. So it works on a grayscale, and anything that is a true black will not affect the geometry at all. Anything that's a true white will affect it 100% of the maximum depth that you set in the tool, and so on and so forth through the grayscale. Now, the image does not have to be just black and white or on the grayscale. It's just taking the value or the intensity of the colors that are available in the image. So, for example, I set up this little simple illustration where I have a true white, the background is true black, and then variations in between. Okay, so let's jump right back over to Evolve, and let's apply that image to this flat plane. So to do so, you just pick your pixel map tool, which in this flyout panel of deformation tools is second to last. So pick on your pixel map, pick the surface you want to affect, and then you can browse for an image. So we'll find that image that I just created on my desktop, which is called color blocks. And now it's applied that to the surface. So if I zoom up on this just a little bit, you can start to see that it's kind of taken some of the shape, but it's not really clearly defined quite yet. So in the modeling tool panel, you have some options that you can play with to better define the image that you're trying to create. So, and that's the sampling resolution in both X and Y directions. So I'm going to increase this up to 100. And so now you can see that it's much more clearly defined as to the colors that were on there. So this is the white block that's here. And you can see that my depth by default is set to 1 unit. So it's pretty easy to see over in the right-hand view. This indentation right here is where the white was showing up on that image, and so you can see the maximum depth is down to one unit down, and that sets your depth. Okay, so then the next color is the yellow, so it's not quite as deep as the white. Then I've got the orange, and so on and so forth until you get all the way to the black background, which is not affecting the rest of this geometry at all. You also have another option, which is the smoothness. So I have a straight color butting right up directly to the black on the edge. So if you want to try to smooth that a little bit, you can use a smoothness factor, and you can see that it will try to soften those transitions between those colors. Okay, so to illustrate maybe another way to think of this, if it's a little easier to understand, let's go back to Photoshop really quick, and I've created another image which is just a gradient. So I've got the same black background, and I've got a gradient that goes from true black all the way to true white. So let's zoom out just a little bit, and we'll apply that to this plane over here. So again, select the pixel map, pick whatever surface you want to apply it to, and then go browse for your image, and I name this one color gradient. And again, you can increase the resolution of the surface so that it'll pick up more detail. So let's try 150. And so you can see it's much sharper and a little bit more defined. So this is a really great way to create sometimes complex geometry in a really simple way. You don't have to go through the whole process of modeling. You could just simply create images really quickly in Photoshop or whatever photo editing program you want, save out images and apply them directly to the surfaces or the geometry. Alright, so one thing to be aware of is this works on a square surface. Okay, so because your images are a square image or a rectangular image, it has 4 sides. So if I apply this to something like a sphere, you're going to get an image that's wrapped onto that surface because it's trying to convert that sphere into a rectangular surface. Okay, so let's just see what that looks like. So let's pixel map onto this sphere, and I will go back and I'll use the gradient, or actually just use the blocks of color. And then again, I'll increase the resolution a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so you can see that you can imagine that there's a seam right here on the sphere, and it's wrapping this image around this axis point on the sphere. So in a lot of cases, you'll want to trim out certain sections of your model so that it's only going to have effect on whatever part of the geometry that you want it to have effect on. Okay, so let's take a look at this in some real use cases. So let's open up a model, and let's pick this. So on this model, I have just taken the headrest of this seat, and I've trimmed this out and just created a separate surface so that I can confine the deformation to just this particular surface. So again, you just select the pixel map, pick the surface that you want to apply it to. You can browse for an image. So let's go down and pick some sort of logo. And let's just do a Corvette logo, so you can see this one's just black on white, so pretty easy. Okay, obviously it's much too deep. It's blowing all the way through the surface. So I'm gonna set the depth to something a little bit less. And then I'm going to increase the resolution because there's a lot of detail in that image that I'm trying to use. So I need to increase the resolution on that surface for it to take effect. So let's bump that up a little bit. Okay, so this brings up another option, or another good point, is sometimes the image may come in upside down or oriented in a different way than what you want. So again, over in the modeling tool panel, you have options to flip either horizontally or vertically. So in this case, I'm just going to flip it vertically. You can continue to increase the resolution a little bit if you want to clearly define it a little bit. And smoothness, maybe you want to increase the smoothness a little bit. So again, this is creating real 3D geometry, which obviously it's a whole lot faster than trying to model all this in. So it's not going to be the best surfaces. You know, it's not going to be, obviously not a Class A surface by any means. But it can be a really nice tool to make some quick decisions and create some geometry really quick. Okay, let's apply the same thing to here. Maybe I want to put some texture on this surface. So let's pick this one and let's go browse for another image. And I've got a few textures I created really quickly in Photoshop. So I've got 5 blocks here or 7 blocks here. So just double click on it. Again, you can specify the depth. And you can control the depth either as a positive value or a negative value. So right now I'm doing a positive value, so it's pushing them in. If I were to do a negative value, it would pop them out the other direction. So you have control on whether you want it to be pushed in or pulled out. Okay. Just like everything else in Evolve, then the really nice part is everything is retained in the construction history. So if I select some of these curves and I start modifying some of the other pieces of the geometry, everything I've done in the pixel map is going to continue to follow along and be retained within the construction history. So I don't have to worry about going back and remodeling and redoing anything at any point. So those are the basics of how to create 3D geometry from a 2D image using the pixel map tool. So hopefully that'll be beneficial for you to create even more complex models in less time and a little bit less frustration. So let us know if you have any questions. Be sure to visit us on our forum, and look forward to hearing from you.